We are live. Good evening, everyone. Or should I say good afternoon, good morning, good night, depending on where you're tuning in from. My name is Nipun Sharma. I am joined by Mr. T, and this is the preview of a London derby, Arsenal versus Chelsea. Can Chelsea end Arsenal's title hopes? Over to you, Manny. Should Arteta take this game seriously or take it? Oh, it's going to be an easy game. Chelsea are 9. They'll be easy work.
Well, in the words of the actual Mr. T, I pity the fool if he doesn't take this game seriously. Well, actually, that answers your question. Yes, he should take it seriously, because we remember only too well the last time we had a home game. Our former manager and our former goalkeeper and also one of our former defenders came to town. And they were missing Douglas Luiz and Matthew Cash. So I was confident enough to predict a 3-1 win in that game, just like I'm predicting a 3-1 win now. Spoiler alert. But Emery masterclass. He ditched the 4-4-2 for a 4-2-3-1. And the rest is history. They soaked up our press quite magnificently and smacked us on the counter. And as far as Emmy was concerned, had 2 or 3 really good saves and enjoyed a clean sheet on his return to the Emirates, and then gave an interview saying that he'd always loved the club. And this after the fans arrogantly and shamelessly kept booing him everywhere. And I do believe there was one fan on another podcast who said that that fan was looking forward to Arsenal making Emi Martinez cry. Well, we all know who had the last laugh. So coming up against this Chelsea team, I'm sure you'll know the injury situation. And yeah.
Yeah, and the person who had the last laugh is the current Argentina number 1.
And of course, let's not forget the former Arsenal number 1, who is the Aston Villa number 1, into the semi-finals of the Europa Conference League, and also in pole position to secure Champions League football for his team. And the reason why I mention that is because obviously we're coming up against your lot, and you can, as you will say, you might have some injury / illness / unavailability doubts about some of your players, but I know that Pochettino and Emery are poles apart as managers in some respects, but if there's one lesson that we should have learned, never ever take any visitor to the Emirates lightly.
I am not. The thing is, I'm not buying this Cole Palmer out due to illness for one bit, because they did the same thing with Didier Drogba, and what did Carlo Ancelotti do? He says no, he's going to play. I'm not believing it unless he's announced on the team sheet. You know what I mean? It's this.
Exactly, I agree. And let's not forget, Tuchel did something very similar with us for the Champions League. He said that the likes of Neuer and company wouldn't be available for the first leg, but then, lo and behold, they were there. He was good to his word when he said that Koeman, Gnabry, and Davies wouldn't play, of course. Davies couldn't play because I think he was suspended anyway. But fat lot of good that did us. So we don't seem to do very well against ex-Chelsea managers.
And what do you... So do you... Now, I did put can Chelsea and Arsenal season. Do you actually think if we beat you, it's the end of your season? Or do you still think if we beat Tottenham and the other games, we can still win the league?
There is a part of me, Nipun, that would think that that if we were to lose to your lot, heaven forbid, it wouldn't be the end of our season. But many of us still have PTSD from what happened last season when we were 8 points ahead of Manchester City and had a lot of things in our hand, but we completely mucked it up.
All in our hands.
Yes, it was all in our hands.
So, और सब कुछ फेंक दिया.
Say about it. And 3 consecutive draws, a heavy loss to Manchester United, 2 consecutive losses to Brighton at home and Forest away, and it was all over bar the shouting. City could even afford to let Brentford do the double over them, for Pete's sake. So the worst thing which really made me so the thing which made me so angry the most about the Aston Villa and Bayern Munich defeats was that in the second half, this was the time when we were supposed to rise to the occasion, and we completely cowered. We shrunk like violets, and at least against Wolves, we were able to take advantage of our chances, but we never should have allowed that injury hit team to nullify us and in some cases really stifle us for as long as we did.
Wait,
Both of our goals.
Wait, you scored 2 goals though.
We did, but yes, I'm coming to that. We did score those 2 goals, but both of them, if you observe, came at the ends of each half. Trossard in the 45th minute, Odegaard touching stoppage time, I think, or thereabouts. So in between, we struggled, and that Wolves team was nowhere near full strength. If you have people like Cunha and Neto in that team, I wouldn't say that we would have gotten clobbered, but I wouldn't have predicted anything like a comfortable win or even a win, maybe a draw at best. So this is going to be a really tough test as well, because you can agree that your Chelsea team, like Manchester United's, are very much a Jekyll and Hyde team. You can be dire enough to draw against the likes of Sheffield United and Burnley, but then you find the mental strength and resilience to beat a Manchester United team. And of course, let's not forget, you held us to a 2-2 draw at the Bridge. Had your goalkeeper, Bobby Sanchez, not made that ridiculous error to give Declan Rice a chance to score, you probably could have beaten us.
Speaking of Declan Rice, I need to call out a few people on Twitter who are cussing his missus. I'm sorry, if he loves her, that's all that matters. And I think that's my mini micro rant over.
Well said. Well said. Players' love lives or private lives should never ever be fair game. By all means, criticize him for seeing for the drop in his levels in recent times, but his love life is his business. I don't even know what's going on with his love life anyway. So it's no business of mine.
Of course. So, are you actually confident going into the game tomorrow?
I'm cautiously confident that we should be able to get a win because, look, we obviously have the league for which to fight while you are still trying to gain some momentum and maybe try and finish as high as you can. The Champions League is, of course, out for you, but the Europa League is still attainable, at least in theory, and you've got several games in hand.
Manny, make no mistake. I did ask you if it would be an easy game for you. Make no mistake. Our fans and the players will probably be saying on camera and in media saying, oh, we're just trying to finish in Europe and end this. No, make no mistake about it. Going into this fixture, they will have only one thing on their mind and one thing only, is to stop Arsenal from winning the league. That's what the players and the managers and the fans, that's all they will have on their mind.
Well, I admire that mentality because you're taking it on a game-by-game basis from here on in. And, of course, where you finish at the end of the season will probably not be an immediate consideration. But, if you can do well in your last few games and maintain that one game at a time mentality, who knows where you could finish. And, of course, if it's Chelsea, if you can beat us and stop our season, then that would be good. But for you, obviously. But bear in mind, prior to last season, we all know what happened. Did the double over you. And your record against us hasn't been the best in recent times. But I'll tell you what, though. This is why I give Pochettino credit. He has been able to get the best out of something resembling the best out of Mykhailo Mudryk. And last season, that whole merry-go-round with the managers, Tuchel, Potter, and Lampard, it couldn't have helped your squad one bit. At least as long as you've got some stability, at least for the short term, at least until the end of the season, I'm sure that the players are capable of doing very well, but we have to show that we are serious about going for this league title, and putting in a good performance at Chelsea is the best way to do that, the best way to prove that after a poor display against Unai Emery and his boys.
But then you know what you should... A lot of Arsenal fans aren't taking into consideration that you're playing a wounded animal. Like, out of the Like, we've just been knocked out of the FA Cup by Man City. So that will obviously incense us.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just hope it doesn't cause our teams to make any rash decisions. Like my team. I don't know about your team.
You know, Arteta made some dreadful changes to the lineup. They were working at first in the first half. Zinchenko was at left back and really spraying some good passes and contributing to the attack. The problem is in the second half, he becomes more of a liability defensively, and he should have been yanked off and Tomiyasu brought on. And as far as decisions are concerned, it's all going to depend on the lineup. Arteta's obsession with shoehorning Kai Havertz into the team by hook or crook can be the thing which really torpedoes our season. Yes, he was scoring goals, but most of those goals have been against pretty poor teams. He hasn't been scoring in recent times, and yet he just has to play the 90 minutes. I don't know if it's written in his contract like it was for another Chelsea old boy, Willian Borges, but the arrogance and stubbornness of Arteta is what hurts me the most.
Do you think do you think his stubbornness is his downfall every season?
Absolutely. Whether it's his unwillingness to adopt a plan B, whether it's his insistence on running certain players into the ground, whether it's his unwillingness to, give other players a chance. This is also going to be this run-in we have, the 4 or 5 games or so that we have, will probably determine whether Thomas Partey has a future at the Arsenal. If he doesn't get to play a pivotal role in these games, then we might be saying goodbye to him. And there are several other players who I wouldn't mind seeing leave. He has no seriousness as well in trying to get a good squad of players who will improve the team. And the fact that Bukayo Saka has no competition in the right wing position, it means that the poor chap's playing every day, every single game, and then feeling the effects. You take a look at the Aston Villa team, how they're able to have Moussa Diaby and Leon Bailey competing with each other, but also bringing out the best in each other. And occasionally, as we saw when they played Bournemouth over the weekend, they started in the same game and they both scored. Who do we have for Saka? Reiss Nelson? One moment of 24 karat magic against Bournemouth.
Well, Reiss Nelson came up clutch. Well, Reiss Nelson supposedly came up clutch last season against Bournemouth for you guys.
That moment of 24 karat magic was enough to award him a new contract. But since then, what has he really done?
Absolutely
and he
nothing.
hardly ever gets a game. Exactly. And, as long as he selects a sensible lineup, which would mean, I know Tomiyasu wasn't in the starting lineup against Wolves because of an injury precaution. If he's still fit, if he is fit, he has to start against Chelsea. No ifs, no buts, no walnuts. Jakub Kiwior will never be a true left back. He's more at home being a left centre back. And seeing him, even if let's say for one moment that Cole Palmer doesn't start, you still have the likes of Noni Madueke and others who can definitely run down the right wing and cause problems. And it was Madueke.
I've seen enough about that Madueke's mentality of wanting him I don't want him anywhere near my club. Have you not seen that clip of him laughing with Jack Grealish after the FA Cup semi-final defeat while all the other team members are in disarray and desolated?
Look, I go back and forth on this whole thing. The worst dereliction of duty would be if, like Martin Odegaard and and Erling Haaland, you do that in the middle of a game. You've got to accept the fact that some of these players have friendships and lives outside the game, which transcends, their clubs and even their countries in some cases. If you're a big fan of cricket, you will know about the legendary friendship between Ian Botham and Viv Richards. They obviously were together at Somerset, and after the whole controversy which saw them leave, they still played against each other when Beefy was at Worcestershire and Durham, and when Viv was at Glamorgan. But when they played for England and the West Indies, respectively, they were fierce rivals. So you can be fierce rivals on the field and have a good friendship off the field. And maybe it didn't look good necessarily with
the heat of them. I mean, like, they could have. I mean, like, it was in the heat of the moment that it came off as a bit insensitive to a lot of the fans.
I get that. I really do. And listen, if you're angry about that, let me ask you, how would you feel if someone like a Conor Gallagher during halftime were to be, chatting up someone like, say, a Declan Rice and laughing and joking with him at halftime when the game hasn't even finished? That would be an even bigger dereliction of duty, if you ask me. As long as you maintain your full focus during the 90 minutes and are devoted to making sure that you see your team win.
Probably in his head, it's just half time. It's half time. We're not playing at the moment.
No, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. Well, if it's half time, it means, the battle is only half done. You have to make sure that you are focused enough to concentrate on your team and your teammates and try and win. And then after the match, you can have your chat with some of your mates. If Odegaard and Haaland had exchanged their pleasantries after the game, that wouldn't be a problem. And I know that in cricket sometimes, there's a little bit of sledging that goes on. I'm reminded of a famous sledging incident between Rodney Marsh and Ian Botham. Swampy asked Beefy, "So how's your wife and my kids?" And Beefy said, "The wife's fine. The children are a bit mad though." And so, listen, I say that as long as players are devoted from the first to the 90, halftime included, to making sure that they fight hard for their team, that's enough for me. After the match, you have your friendships away from the game, and then maybe you can talk a little bit. Or perhaps if it is too insensitive from the fans, you wait until everyone gets showered and changed, and if you can find some time to chat with one another, by all means do it. I don't see what the big problem is. If you do it in the middle of the match, that's the problem. And that's why you can't be too harsh on Madueke, because look, it was he who won that penalty by cooking, I repeat, cooking Diogo Dalot on the left, because Dalot is not a natural left back, of course. And then from there, it was
the FA Cup semi-final.
I'm aware of that. And you can't tell me that Madueke didn't try his best in that game either.
Sorry, I coughed. I didn't quite hear what you said.
I mean, you can't tell me that Madueke didn't try his best in that game. I couldn't see that because I was out the whole day, I'm afraid.
He was trying.
So that says it all. And that's the thing. So without digressing, if you have someone like a Madueke or someone down that right wing who will really run quickly, Kiwior's going to get cooked. So we can't afford to start Jakub Kiwior at left back. And if I never see Alexander Zinchenko playing at left back again, it will be too soon. I wouldn't mind having him in the midfield. And if we had put him in that midfield, we would potentially have saved a great deal of money on buying Declan Rice. But that goes back to Arteta's own arrogance, really. His refusal to adopt a plan B by which we play a traditional left back that can overlap and provide great support to Gabriel Martinelli. I mean, it's no coincidence that in this stage of the season, we're seeing some wonky results and we're not getting the best out of Martinelli. I think Martinelli will need to leave Arsenal for his own good, but it's better that he leaves Arteta. That's the most important thing. Leave Arteta and go to a club where the manager will, recognize your talent and really figure out what's wrong with you. And we have a lot of celebrated Arsenal fans saying that they would be happy to flog Martinelli in the transfer market, which is really unfair because I love the bloke. He is practically my favorite player at the club. And yet Arteta is literally wasting his talent by putting him out on the wing, when instead he should be converted into a centre forward, just like Arsene Wenger did with a certain TH14.
But he'll never reach the heights of TH14.
No, but at least he can make the most of his talents. He can score goals.
So, which player do you fear the most going into this game? Like say if your defense, like say if Arsenal's defense, like, you know what, do not give this player any space. If you do, you're toast.
A certain Ukrainian by the name of Mikhailo Mudryk. You and I both know all about the whole saga regarding his transfer. He was supposed to come to us, but he ended up going to you. You ended up upshelling about 100 million quid for him, and we got Leandro Trossard for barely a quarter of that price.
You've had the last laugh. Trossard
Not necessarily. Maybe so, but in terms of winning trophies,
we're not winning anything either this season.
Exactly. So you can't say that we've had the last laugh. Yes, Trossard has been performing better. Yes, but you don't win until you cross the finish line in first place. And I love this one from Zayn. Martinelli's best attributes are an inside forward kind of Salah years ago, but he can play striker if he plays off the shoulder, and that's the big issue. One of the reasons why Martinelli doesn't play centre forward is because maybe in the manager's eyes, he might not be that strong enough to really muscle some defenders off him. He might need to, as you say, Zayn, drop his shoulder a little bit and then really run. But he's done that for Brazil, so why can't he be allowed to do that for Arsenal? Why must we stick Kai Havertz up top or use Leandro Trossard as a false nine or even, stick with someone like a Gabriel Jesus? None of whom are anywhere near are prolific in any way. And the reason why I say this is because there was a point when Martinelli was going through a very prolific spell, scoring goals, and yet it completely changed. I get that the thing with Arteta is that he is nowhere near as tactically brilliant as people think he is. He's a very simple-minded coach who wants to become Pep reincarnate. He prefers to play one way. He refuses to adopt a plan B. And again, going back to your question, I do fear Mikhailo Mudryk because Pochettino seems to have worked out how to use him the best and how to make sure that he can make the most of his ability. And it was he, of course, who scored that brilliant goal at Stamford Bridge where he literally made David Raya look a complete fool. And I do believe that Pochettino has helped him settle. He is starting to play quite well. You got several talented players in your squad who just need to...
Do you fear that Mudryk will be motivated to score tomorrow?
Of course. He's up against his Ukrainian captain. He's up against the team whose fans are now sneering, saying that it's good that we didn't get him because we would have wasted our money on him. We've got the better player, and Mudryk is nowhere near Trossard's league.
Do you think he sees any of the crap your fans put out, though?
Well, he can't not. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Declan Rice's companion. That poor lady had to delete all her Instagram posts. I just found out found out about it now, and I'm going to say right now, Declan, I'm with you. I'm with. I want to find out what her name is. Lauren Fryer. I'm standing with Lauren and Declan, and yeah, she is not bad looking at all. You trolls need to just get a damn life, but. Back to Mudryk, he can't not see the criticism. He can't not be told what people are thinking about him, and it is going to be something that will motivate him to do better. And of course, it was he who, secured the Ukraine's passage into the Euros coming up in Germany. So he will want to definitely prove to people that he is more than capable and more than worthy of playing international football for his country and also playing at Chelsea Football Club. And he scored against us at the Bridge. I wouldn't bet against him scoring at the Emirates, especially if Saliba and Gabriel have a bit of an off day. You never know.
What do you? But then you might see idiots with pens trying to shine him.
That's true, and that is going to be an evening game. But hopefully, the Arsenal hierarchy will crack down on that.
What were your thoughts on that Arsenal fan who decided it would be a smart idea to try and blind him?
He's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace.
And
Just like
there were certain Arsenal fans on Twitter saying, "Oh, it's part of giving your team an advantage. You have to win by all means necessary."
that is disgusting. That is disgusting. Fans should never ever be allowed to influence a game in that respect. That is disgusting. Just like, I know a pitch of invasion doesn't quite equate to that because that happens after the game, but that is disorderly behavior. And the people responsible for that need to be named, shamed, and have the riot act read to them. And preferably, if it is deemed that you try to blind them, throw him in the nick.
Do you think Timber comes back for this game?
Too soon. Too soon. A lot of Arsenal fans seem to have a theory that part of the reason why he got injured in the first game of the season was because he was playing in an unfamiliar position. Hold on a minute, please.
That's a bullshit excuse. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that for one bit. I'm sorry, that's a bullshit excuse, and I'm not buying it for 1 second. Yeah, and I've seen, and Twitter's going up on all these.
Yep, I'm back.
And
And I get what
Twitter
you're saying. I get what you're saying. It is a ridiculous excuse, but whenever he's played football before, be it for Ajax or the Dutch national team, he was always on the right. I believe at Ajax he was a right back. At the World Cup in Qatar, Louis van Gaal deployed him as more of a right-sided centre back so that Denzel Dumfries could bomb down the wing. The same Dumfries who came on as a late substitute got sent off in the Milan derby. At least his team won the Scudetto. But Timber was always on the right. The worst part about trying to... Huh?
Would you take him at Inter Milan? Sorry, at Chelsea. Sorry, at Arsenal. Whoa.
Dumfries? Yes, please. He's everything as a defender that Ben White will never be. And, heck, even Ezri Konsa is everything as a defender that Ben White will never be. And yet news is that Aston Villa and Emery might try and get him first, which means that Matthew Cash will have more competition for his spot, and Ezri Konsa can continue to enjoy life as a centre-back, and that way the defence will be strengthened. But back to Timber, he was always on the right. So because Arteta, in all his wonky wisdom, I say wisdom with quotation marks, saw it fit to try to put him on the left, you can't just force a right-footed player to play on the left. It'll be a struggle. I know Dennis Irwin was able to do that with Manchester United, and he didn't do half badly. But there was a reason why, as a consequence, he seldom played as a left-back for the Republic of Ireland, and Steve Staunton was always chosen ahead of him. And Staunton just offered so much more as a traditional left-back than Irwin could ever do. He had a beautiful left foot. He could overlap wonderfully. And he was every bit that traditional left back, that dynamic left back that teams would want. If you're inverted, you can come to the midfield, but more often than not, at times, unless you're able to really have a feel of the game, you can look exceptionally clumsy. Of course, Nosed Manzarari of Bayern Munich is right-footed, but plays at left back. But, for me, it just... it angers me as well that Arteta still is so willing to live and die on this whole hill of being inverted. I call it perverted inverted. That sometimes it can, if players aren't able to adapt to that effectively, it can prove really hurtful. And my heart broke for Timber. I know that it's just a theory. I don't necessarily give it any kind of credence, but. This is what Arteta can do to certain players. He can suck the talent right out of them. And I just hope that, Timber will be okay. But no, I wouldn't have him back in the starting lineup because he's played today and scored a wonder goal. You can't just rush him back. especially when we've got Tomiyasu, Kiwior, and Zinchenko. I know it's not a good bunch to choose from, but I'd sooner have Tomiyasu back over there if he's fit. And but you know, if we still have doubts about Timber's fitness, I wouldn't want to rush him back in a game of this magnitude. And I fear what the likes of Madueke and company could do to him if he isn't quite tuned in. He only played 45 minutes tonight.
So, who do you fear more, Chelsea or the North London derby? Fear.
It's hard to pick one over the other, to be honest. I mean, at their best, Tottenham can play some really silky football, but their high line is asking to be demolished. The only problem is we found it difficult this season to really get behind Aston Villa's high line. So with Tottenham, I'm not too sure how we can manage that. But crucially, some of their injured players are coming back into the team.
Big up Tyrone.
Tyrone, good to see you. And at their best, they can play some really stylish, cohesive football. They really can. As far as Chelsea are concerned, I just think they're a little bit disjointed in many ways. You know, in theory, when you take a look at the midfield and attack, defense, apart from Thiago Silva, maybe not so much, you've actually got a good set of players who, if they gel together, can really produce something. They're good as individuals, but they're just so disjointed. It's very hard to see them, consistently play well, and it's very hard to see them put in a consistent run of performances. But I mean, they're so unpredictable, and yet you just know that with the talent they have, they can easily shock any team if that team doesn't take them seriously. And I agree, Chelsea Sessions. This channel is underrated, and I'm grateful to him for having me on. But if we are too complacent with you lot, we're going to be in for a really difficult night. I'm confident enough to predict a 3-1 win, but as I've said, there's no way in the world that we can take this Chelsea team for granted, and especially if Cole Palmer is past fit to play and has a blinder.
I missed that.
I said we can't take your team for granted. You lot have individuals who are capable of good performances, and especially if Cole Palmer plays and has a really good game against us. I shudder to think about it.
Who is that? I've asked every fan this question, including my own fan base. Which player, who is that one player you absolutely cannot trust in your starting 11? Like saying, you know what, if he's there, he's getting sent off, or he's conceding a goal, or he's doing something dumb.
Alexander Zinchenko.
So
excellent going forward, but he can't defend for Toffee.
So you don't trust him?
No.
In other words?
No. I wouldn't trust him even if he paid me, to be honest. No.
So you think he could get sent off?
I wouldn't necessarily say sent off, but if heaven forbid he were to start and get completely cooked by whoever's playing on the right, it could be Palmer, it could be Madueke, it could be someone else. You just know that we're going to concede. I also, have no real faith in Kai Havertz, to be honest, because
he's been scoring so many goals for you.
Most of those goals have been against teams that aren't really of our level, with all due respect.
We're not at your level. We're not at your level at this moment in time. That's unreal.
Well, he didn't exactly set, Stamford Bridge alight when he came back with back to your stomping ground with us, did he? And how exactly has he performed against the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, Aston Villa, among others. I
Not very.
still don't, and that's the thing. Like, there are times when he's looked good. He scored a few tap-ins, but there have been times when he's looked absolutely clueless and couldn't even hit a horse's backside with a banjo.
Nice.
What?
So, I said nice.
Yeah. Indeed. By the way, didn't you say that there was a Chelsea fan who was coming? Rich Sports.
I did. He's having problems with his computer.
Okay. With some obviously, when we won the league at Tottenham's home ground in 2004, part of the Invincible season, that was very satisfying. So I'm glad that Inter were able to experience that feeling. Yeah, so I think I've answered your question. I wouldn't trust Zinchenko with anything. I cannot countenance him being in the starting 11. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, one player I absolutely cannot trust for Toffee at this moment in time. Too many to choose from. Like, yeah, Caicedo, if he does anything, look, I always fear that if he's in a situation he gets rash and then he gets himself sent off. You know those type of players, right?
I don't actually. You might need to give me a name.
Xhaka, a certain Albanian Swiss.
He doesn't play for us anymore,
But when he did, he was that one guy who always
Yes. I called him the Swiss cheese because at times he'd be full of holes. And I think given that he's from the cold of Switzerland, he has to be a little bit hot-blooded.
Yeah.
And he's now gone on and won the title in Germany, so congratulations to him. Or Glückwunsch, as we would say in German.
Glückchen, what does that mean?
Glückwunsch. It's Glückwunsch.
Nice. Look at this moped on Twitter.
Treble winners, Invincible, Centurions, conceded 15 in the season. It means more. Oh, for Pete's sake. Who posted that?
How about this? How about 6 Champions Leagues? No, wait, no. Yeah, it was initially from an Arsenal account. So I retweeted, how about 6 UEFA Champions League trophies compared to 0 in your entire club's in your club's entire existence?
I wonder if that bloke blocked you. That was a fine comeback. We just never learn, do we? We just never learn.
Ode Enthusiast. It's a Twitter user called Ode Enthusiast. This guy. And no, he hasn't blocked me yet.
Yep, I see it. And
so basically, I ruined this, and I ruined his argument in one tweet.
Yes, you did. And yep, I'm seeing this particular tweet right now. It did get quite a lot of traction, nearly 2,000 likes, 200 retweets / quote tweets, and
a lot of those retweets are from the mutants.
Yeah.
On your fan base.
Yeah, but City have 1, United have 3, Chelsea have 2, you lot have 6. So that's 12 Champions League titles to our pithy 0. Disgusting.
Chelsea have 3. Liverpool have 6.
How did Chelsea have 3? I know
Sorry,
you won it in 2000. Yeah,
2.
you won it in 2012 and also 2021 under Di Matteo and Tuchel. I remember. Look, Nippon, some of these Arsenal fans are just not worth engaging with. I'm sorry to say that. They're a bunch of clueless morons. And I do see a retweet, somebody engaged with it. Actually, somebody did, but I can't see that person. A lot of blocking goes on. A lot of blocking goes on here. It really does.
Yeah, it's because they're in their feelings.
And this is the account, an Odegaard fanboy. That's why he calls himself Ode Enthusiast.
Oh, God. What is it with all these Twitter accounts repping the worst players? If Odegaard was so good, he would still be at Real Madrid.
You bet.
If Jesus was such a good footballer, he would still be at Man City.
As would Zinchenko.
Yeah. Pep genuinely, the only mistake Pep genuinely made was selling Cole Palmer to us.
Don't forget letting Ilkay Gundogan go to Barcelona and Riyad Mahrez go to the Saudi League.
Ilkay Gundogan isn't exactly pulling up trees in Catalonia now, is he?
Still showing some flashes of his old ability, although you have a point when you say that maybe his best days are behind him. But he will be captaining Germany, of course, at the Euros. And
knows they might win it.
And of course, with that, Gundogan was really the real engine in that team which won the treble.
Yeah. And he was the captain.
Exactly. So if you want to sell a guy with that much clout and experience and influence, you replace him. We got rid of Aubameyang. We sent him to Catalonia, but we didn't have a replacement for him. And look what happened to us.
But in Pep's head, he says, "Oh, I'm Pep Guardiola. I'll sign anyone and I'll get a tune out of them."
Exactly, and that's what Arteta thinks too. I'm Mikel Arteta. I'm manager of Arsenal Football Club. I'm here for as long as I want to be here, and I'll make sure that I tweak players to play the style that I want to see them play.
I said this on a space a few days ago, on a Twitter space a few days ago, that Arteta has the ego of Jose Mourinho, but the coaching ability of Tim Sherwood. And that's probably an insult to Tim Sherwood.
You bet. You bet. At least Tim Sherwood was able to get Aston Villa, of all teams, to an FA Cup final. Yeah. Which they lost to us, by the way.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you didn't say the coaching ability of a Pochettino because, Pochettino isn't really that bad in some ways. I know he's not quite as good as some people claim him to be, but when you had that podcast, I think a lot of people were saying, I think Queen Ellie was saying that he was doing a brilliant job for Tottenham. I think he'll look back on that Champions League final and look back on the decision to start Harry Kane over Lucas Moura and say, you know what? I mucked up there.
Yeah. Chelsea will win trophies, but not with him. I'm telling you. If we get someone like a Simone Inzaghi, like we buy out his contract from Inter Milan, I think Inzaghi, if he joins the Premier League, I think he's that next manager that disrupts the Pep train, like Klopp did, like Conte did. I think Inzaghi is that next guy.
He could be. He could be.
And plus,
The
Chelsea and Italy have a good history with players and managers.
Of course. Ancelotti, Conte.
Ancelotti.
Ranieri, not so much, but then ironically, he did get
win.
Mourinho the sack. He did get Mourinho the sack, and he also had a guard of honor back at Chelsea when he won it with Leicester.
And I think I don't know if it was, he won the league with Chelsea too, though. Ranieri.
Are you sure?
No, wait. Yeah, I think it was, he made the team for, Ranieri is one of those managers that makes the teams for the manager. That's what I was saying with Pochettino. We won't win anything with Pochettino. I want to make that absolutely clear. But the manager who takes over from Pochettino will be the one to take us across the line. I've said this in so many podcasts, so many Twitter spaces, and I stand by that.
You might have a point. I mean,
in other words, Pochettino is our Brendan Rodgers.
Or your Mikel Arteta. The only problem is I don't want to see it have this sort of a mentality which states that the previous manager deserves any credit, because when Mourinho took over, he did actually, cull a few players who had played under Ranieri and tell them basically that they were no longer a part of his plans. He ruthlessly ditched Carlo Cudicini in favor of Petr Cech and made his own signings. And when he started winning those leagues, I don't think there was any Chelsea fan that was talking about Ranieri at that time. They will always have esteem for Ranieri, but they wouldn't really, say that he was the one who laid the platform for Mourinho's success. I mean, I don't think, because when a manager comes in and does things his way, that is that manager who owns that success. So if Arteta were to leave and the next manager who comes in wins something with us, I don't want to hear any people saying Arteta's name, because if anything, the new manager is going to come in, bring some new tactics and new ideas. He'll get rid of some players who aren't up to the level and bring his own players in, and and have a new tactical system. And if we win something, then we have to say that getting rid of Arteta was the right thing to do.
Of course. But who do you think will want to work with Josh Kroenke?
I have a theory, Nippon, that the reason why Ancelotti decided to go to Everton when he could have come to Arsenal at that time was because he didn't want to work with Kroenke. I call them the Crankies, mind you.
Who would you say would be more difficult to work with, the Cronkies or Todd Boehly?
Ooh. There's a reason why I refer to your owner as Roly-Poly Boehly. I don't think the bloke has any real experience of being able to get teams to, really gel. At least the Cronkies have winning franchises on the other side of the Atlantic.
I think.
And Boehly was the one who started that whole spiral when he got rid of Tuchel.
I'm adamant in what I've been saying, though, that I think the owners will learn from their mistakes. I mean, they're new to the sport. Anyway, enough on my about.
Kyle Walsh, big up to you, brother. I hope you're feeling a lot better these days. And by the way, Kyle, let me ask you. I'm confident enough to predict a 3-1 win tomorrow. What's your prediction, mate? And as for what you said about how owners may seldom learn from their mistakes, I think with Boehly it's proving to be true. With Kroenke as well, the Cronkies as well, maybe one thing that can get owners to start changing their ways would be fan pressure. And you would think at a club like Chelsea, if you go without success for a certain period of time and you don't have that consistent run of performances, fans should start to turn on the club and the owners.
And a lot of, what I've said? A lot of, how a lot of top gooners are ultra positive. as you can see everywhere, like on AFTV or Twitter, it's the opposite when it comes to top blues. A lot of top blues are ultra negative. Have you noticed that?
I've seen that. 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 I think Chelsea fans are probably the type who are so used to success, and the fact that Chelsea, almost like Real Madrid, you know, they seem to sack managers wantonly and still get success. They seem to buck the trend right now because I think in Carlo Ancelotti, they've got a stabilizing experience, and maybe they're starting to realize that you can't keep sacking managers left, right, and center.
You know when I last year in the semi-finals, there was the same fixture, Man City versus Real Madrid at the Etihad. I actually thought he was toast after their 5-1 bollocking over 2 legs. Honestly thought he was toast after that game.
Which game was that?
When Real Madrid when Man City gave Real Madrid
a yes.
Etihad.
Yeah. And I think that season as well, didn't Barcelona win La Liga?
Yeah, and if that was a chairman like Roman, he would have been sacked. That's like, put it into Chelsea's perspectives, that's like being knocked out of the Champions League by a Spanish heavyweight. Man City are an English heavyweight. And then losing the title to you or Tottenham. So that was the worst thing possible that could have happened to Real Madrid that season.
Well, maybe Florentino Perez came to his senses and realized that trying to get a new manager to come in immediately after Ancelotti would be almost difficult. And let's not forget, this is Ancelotti's second spell at the club, and he's won Champions Leagues with them before, including what was, their 10th one, the Decima. So, maybe Perez has realized that he can't keep sacking managers, but it also helps that Ancelotti and Perez have always had a warm relationship. So maybe there's an agreement in principle that Ancelotti shouldn't just be, thrown out on his backside like the other managers were. He gets given a golden handshake and they can go on their way. And if Madrid do go on to, win the Champions League this season, which I think now they're the favourites ahead of Enrique's PSG and
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Tuchel's Bayern Munich and who were the other team? I keep forgetting.
Borussia Dortmund.
Yes, the overachieving Borussia Dortmund. They've had a wonderful tournament, but I think this is really as good as it's going to get for them.
And stay tuned for that when we do all that in next month's Sixth Sense episode. So, I think we're getting to the point of predicting the lineups.
Ooh, nice.
Your call, Manny, since you're the guest here.
Do you want me to predict? So I predict the Arsenal lineup, yes?
Yeah.
Well, David Raya will continue in goal.
Is that your personal, or is that your personal preference, or?
When the alternative is Aaron Christopher Ramsdale, there's no question of preference. Ramsdale may at least be marginally the better shot stopper, but Raya, for all of his own individual flaws, has somehow struck up a good understanding with the defense, keeping 6
Yeah,
clean sheets
that-
consecutive.
when it comes to quality, is there really any difference between them, though?
And that's the issue I have. If you were to put them together, take all of their best attributes and put them together, you'd have the perfect goalkeeper. Sadly, the only goalkeeper I can think of
बंदगी
who
से
would.
सोना नहीं ले सकते.
Kill?
You can't.
That's
You can't.
that's no. I understand what you're saying, but that is how people have gathered gold in the past.
No, as in, like, I was trying to say it, I didn't mean it in that way. I meant it in a sense, like, it's like comparing trash to garbage.
I'm aware of that. I'm completely aware of that. But that's the thing. If you take their better qualities and put them together, you would have a really good goalkeeper. The only problem is, they seem to have their own differences. As I said, Ramsdale is marginally the better shot stopper, but when it comes to crosses and set pieces, I mean, crosses in particular and corners, I think the bloke is literally like a deer in the headlights. Raya, at least in theory, has been able to deal with almost every cross that's come his way, although at St. James's Park against Newcastle, when ex-gunner Joe Willock fired that cross in after legally keeping the ball in play, and he did keep it in play, he was found wanting, and then Anthony Gordon scored what proved to be the winner. And then, Raya also has a bad tendency to be a little bit out of position at times. His own positioning isn't really that much better than Ramsdale's.
There's a reason why both of them are third choice for country.
Well, technically Raya's second choice now because Bob Sanchez is out of the picture. I mean, Sanchez obviously is injured, and Kepa is also now on the bench at Real Madrid. So there really is no other Spanish goalkeeper who can challenge Unai Simon at present.
My last recollection of the team selection, it was Bilbao's Unai Simon. Then it was Sanchez, and then it was Raya.
Yes, but Bobby Sanchez is injured now, don't you know?
Oh, yeah.
So for the moment, David Raya's second choice. Aaron Ramsdale could go to the Euros, but because our goalkeeping cupboard is so bare, we're faced with the prospect of going with Pickford and him, and who knows who we could pick. Should we pick Eddie Pope of Newcastle? Should we pick Eddie Pope of Newcastle, or should we pick maybe Dean Henderson of Crystal Palace?
Maybe we should go up north. Maybe we should go to Glasgow and go for Jack Butland.
Or even Joe Hart. And I don't think Southgate would want to do that.
Nah, not Joe Hart. Joe Hart is literally... Aaron Ramsdale is literally what Joe Hart was. A goalkeeper who thinks he's too good for his own good, basically.
Yeah, but at least Joe Hart had the silverware and the trophies to back everything up. And he did. He was good before Guardiola. He was good before Guardiola came into the picture. But then that's the thing. So
Guardiola does. He does things his own way.
And that's the reason why Guardiola is nowhere near a good manager, because he can destroy a lot of players' careers and confidence very easily.
You don't rate him as a manager?
Nope, certainly not in comparison to the likes of Ancelotti and others. The best thing about Ancelotti is that he's a fine manager. He gives every player a chance. You see, he gives every player a fair chance to prove themselves. But come the business end of the season, he's stuck with his first 11 in mind, and they end up playing. And there are some players in that team, the likes of Arda Güler, the Turkish bloke, who is a fine talent, but he hasn't really been picked too often. And he did score a cracker of a goal against Rafa Benitez at Celta Vigo. And immediately after that, Benitez got the sack. But Ancelotti's a much better man manager, and he gets a tune out of his players. And so that's the thing. Going back to the lineup, Raya starts in goal. And at least for now, having to choose between Raya and Ramsdale, it's Sophie's choice in the worst possible way, because I don't rate either of them. As I said, if you take their best qualities and put them together, you'd have the perfect goalkeeper. But the one goalkeeper I can think of who really suits everything is currently playing for Aston Villa. So it's the lesser of the two evils, and I'm going to have to go with David Raya. At right back, it will be Benny Blanco, as we call him. Saliba and Gabriel keep their places, but they will be on Bozo watch. If either of them muck up, then I think Chelsea will take advantage of it. And at left back, it has to be Takahiro Tomiyasu. I don't want to run the risk of seeing Jakub Kivi or Alexander Zinchenko getting cooked by either Palmer or Madueke or whoever plays on the right. Now, ideally, we would be playing a 4-2-3-1, but because we don't have a proper striker who can really play well, we're forced to playing with a 4-3-3. So 3-man midfield, Odegaard on the right, the ex-Chelsea midfielder Georgie Porgy in the middle, and Declan Rice on the left. Although preferably, I would sooner have Partey playing in the middle instead of Jorginho and Declan Rice playing. The only problem is because Partey hasn't gotten too many minutes, I don't see Arteta suddenly changing that. Maybe he'll come on as a substitute later on to try and see the game off, but we'll see how that happens. And up front, I do not want to see Kai Havertz starting. I would sooner go with Bukayo Saka on the right, Leandro Trossard up front. No, Leandro Trossard on the left and Gabriel Jesus in the middle. It's not the nicest selection, but that way Martinelli can come on and maybe work some magic, and then maybe Havertz can come on later. So, Raya, from right to left rather. Raya, White, Gabriel, Saliba, Gabriel, Tomiyasu. Odegaard, Jorginho, Declan Rice. Saka, Jesus, Trossard.
Excellent.
Trossard has to start. Trossard has to start after that goal against Wolves.
And do you think this is the lineup Arteta's going to go with?
I think he will probably start Havertz as a false 9 and move Jesus onto the left. This is my preferred lineup.
Okay. Now, I'm going to do my preferred lineup, and then I'm going to wrap up.
What's the formation you're using?
I'm using. You can take it as a 3-4-3, a 4-2-3-1, or but I think I'm going to go with a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. So you can make of that what you will.
That's a good call. The 4-2-3-1 would be better. That's what did for us at the Emirates when Aston Villa came to town.
In goal, Georgi Petrovic.
The only available choice.
Make no mistake, even if Sanchez was available, Pochettino would choose Petro. At left back, Hugh Wizzy. Marco Correa. And you know who Hugh Wizzy is, right?
No, I don't, I'm afraid.
Oh, he's a YouTuber. At right back, Malo Gusto.
If he's fit.
I'm assuming it's all mind games. That's why I'm putting him there.
But if he's not fit, then who plays?
Alfie Gilchrist, that academy boy.
Good call.
The two centre-backs. Thiago Silva and Big Ben. Sorry, and Trevor Chalobah.
No room for Axel Disasi then?
Axel Disaster, you mean?
I just knew you'd say that.
In midfield, Enzo and Caicedo in the pivot.
Very good.
In attack, Mudryk on one side.
Left.
Palmer on the other.
the right.
Gallagher in the 10, and Nico Jackson as the lone striker.
Yeah, well, I actually want to ask you about him. He did miss quite a few chances against City, and when I was having big up to Oris Talks Football, of course, by the way, one of your regular
Do not get
panelists
me
on the Sixth
started on
Sense.
those missed chances against City.
Yeah, so another panelist and I were taking the liberty of, poking fun at him by using some Michael Jackson related puns. He didn't have a thriller of a game. He was bad. And the fact that he's stealing a living makes him a smooth criminal.
That's hilarious. Anyway.
So I'll tell you what, though, ever since that hat trick at the Tottenham Stadium, I don't think he's really, impressed people in many ways.
But
Do you still believe in him?
Yeah, because you know why? Because Didier Drogba believes in him. If you're the king of African football and you believe in a player, I have no reason not to believe in you.
Well, clearly you and I differ on who the king of Africa should be. For me, it's Nwankwo Kanu, but
that's a debate for another day.
Yes,
and
exactly.
When it comes to Pochettino's lineups, I think the only thing he would change is probably playing Disaster instead of Trevor, or maybe Gilchrist, or maybe Disaster instead of Gilchrist at right back. Yeesh. And now for the score prediction, what are we saying, Manny? You go first.
Well, I already gave my prediction at the beginning of the stream. I was confident enough to predict a 3-1 win. But I predicted that we'd win 3-1 when Emery and his boys came calling to town, and a fat lot of good that did me. But I'm sticking with the 3-1. I think we should have an edge. And one question for you, sticking back on Nico Jackson, why not Albania's finest, Broja?
Because he's on loan at Fulham. He's on loan down the road.
Oh, you idiot! How could I have forgotten that?
Yeah,
what a stupid question.
You're not an idiot. You're not an idiot. That Argentine in the dugout is an idiot for loaning him out.
Fair call. Fair call.
Yeah, so my prediction, I'm gonna go with head and heart. My head says my head predicts the same scoreline as yours, 3-1 Arsenal. My heart, however, predicts a 3-2 win to the Blues.
Ooh, that would be sweet revenge for the double last season, I would imagine.
Yes, with Mudryk going to the clock end, cupping his ears.
I really don't like this whole cupping ears thing, but especially after what Anthony did to those poor Coventry players. I mean, it was just despicable, really.
Yeah, and he was a disgrace. Big up Harry Maguire, though, for going to those players and shaking their hands.
Hey, indeed.
Exactly what a captain should do.
Yeah.
Now,
although cynics would say that if he didn't do that, he would have been, dismissed as an absolute pork chop himself.
Well, he is the lesser of the pork chops. Big up Kenny Ken for that phrase, by the way.
Yep.
Right. So, with that being said, we have come to the end of the preview. Manny, what have you got coming up, and where can people find you?
Well, as long as you're willing to welcome me back on your channel, you can definitely find me here on NS Sports TV. Big up to you for inviting me. And definitely you can find me on Oris Talks Football, as the gang and I chat a lot about the games that have been played and the games to be played and so forth. And we have a little bit of a riot at times, and it can get a little bit, I wouldn't say heated, but it can get a bit silly at times. But it's all in good fun. Also on Coach's Corner, we might possibly be doing a watch along for the Arsenal-Chelsea game if Hanno sees it fit. and you will hear me on commentary. A refreshing change from the likes of Martin Tyler, believe you me. Also, catch me on Del Boy Gunner TV. I'd like to think we might be doing a call-in show after the Chelsea game, but of course it will depend. Sometimes Del may be a little bit too upset after some games to even do a call-in show, but it is what it is. Also, catch me on Up the Cherries in all departments. Craig Beasley and I do the weekly cherry picking show, which is a little bit of a Staten Greavesy style talk show where we discuss a lot of issues relating to Bournemouth and the Premiership, football in general. We do the video on Thursday. We release it on Friday. And big up to you, Mile High. Also catch me on Rich Sports, who was in the chat. Also catch me on Football United with Anthony Herbert. AFC Talk Show TV with MK the Don. Spurs Asia TV with Eugen. As you know, Nippon, based in Malaysia. Northside LDN, I go on as a call-in show every now and then. And several other channels I don't really know if I can name at present because my memory fails me, but I'll send them a check in the post. And I always say that whenever we go on streams, it's important that we're respectful to one another and allow each other to say what we want to say and respect each other's opinions. If we can't agree to disagree without being disagreeable, there's no point in having a discussion. And that's why you see a Chelsea fan and an Arsenal fan together on a stream, peacefully and respectfully talking. So this should be the way streams should be conducted. Social media, catch me at Manny Thangatherai 1981 on Instagram and Threads, Thangatherai 1981 on Twitter. Do enjoy the rest of the week. Do enjoy the midweek football. If you're into cricket, enjoy the Indian Premier League if you can watch it, or some other first-class action or international action. And take care of yourselves. Have a good night. Be safe and be happy, and don't do anything that Mr. Sharma and I wouldn't do. For now, though, farewell to thee, goodbye, and God bless to all of you. Thangatherai out.
And you can find me on... You can find me on all those channels ticking below. You can find me as an occasional panelist on Worldwide Chels. Go subscribe to Sadiq's channel if you haven't already. He's a top bloke. Go subscribe to his channel. And you can find me as an occasional caller on Football Carnage TV, ran by the Big Six's very own Grizz Khan. Big up Grizz. Big up Turkish and big up the Big Six. And what I have coming up this week, on Wednesday, 8:30 p.m., I am live with Sophie on her channel TV Guna. So go give her a follow if you haven't already. And on Friday, I'll be back on my channel for the Sixth Sense show, where I'll be with Ellie from A Girl Who Loves Spurs, Lottie, Arrest from Arrest Talks Football, and hopefully Anfield from Anfield Uncles Rods TV, and Vater Games from Vater Games TV for the Sixth Sense show. And with that being said, I shall see you all in the next video. Laters.